Hey guys, Jeff here. Today I want to cover a very important subject, a very important topic, which is how to start, stay focused, and finish with your music. So how to start with an idea or a melody, getting it into the DAW, how to stay focused, how to stay with an idea, stay the course, and how to get that music done in a way that it is not going to be just lingering in your project folder forever. It's done, it's out to the world, and then you can move on with your life. I was thinking about videos, to do this month, and I was like, oh, I'll review this plugin, or I'll do a video on mastering, because a lot of people want to learn about mastering. And then I was like, no, what value is it to you if you can like mic a kick drum or EQ a bass, but you can't actually get that idea, that music, that song to EQ and to effect, if you can't get that out, if you can't put that in your DAW. So that's what this video is about. I have a sheet, so there's a lot of stuff to cover. This is just to sort of help me get everything out. I might do some editing. If I can get it all out in a really quick way, then I won't go back. I won't go back on my cardinal rule. But two things I want to say before we start. Some of these tips are inspired from my own workflow, and they've worked for me. And some of them are from a really great book that I just started reading by Ableton called 74 Tips and Strategies for Creative Music Making or something. I'll put a link to it. Very helpful. So I'm going to take some of those ideas that I read in the book. It's not going to be me just like copying from the book. It's a mix and match, and the book is like 200 pages, so there's a lot of stuff in there, and I'm going to take the best of the best and put it in this video. The second thing I want to say is that this is not like a step 1, step 2, step 3, you have a hit song thing. This is like, I might contradict myself sometimes because the tips will contradict themselves. You should take what you want from this video. If that tip sounds good to you, do that. If that tip sounds good, just sort of mix and match. It's not meant to be sequential. So let's just get into it. So the first section is starting, how to start your music. And the first tip there is, don't wait for an idea to start working. Work while waiting for an idea. I had a guy that reached out to me on Reddit, and he was like, I have these melodies in my head, but whenever I get to my DAW, I have no idea what I'm doing, And I think that one of the dangers in waiting for an idea before you start working is that you could be working and learning and learning all the inner sort of mechanics of your DAW, and then you have an idea and you're right there at your battle station. You're ready to go. You're ready to start making music. The other danger, I think, in waiting for an idea to inspire you is that you might start to question the quality of those ideas. You might be sitting around going, okay, well, that's a cool melody. And you're like, nah, it's really crap. That's bad. I'm bad. I'm going to become an architect. So if you're at the battle station, if you're ready to go and you're already making music and everything is in a good place and conducive to generating ideas and stuff, then like those ideas will come and you'll be right there ready to capture them. So that'd be my first tip. Don't wait for an idea to work. Work while waiting for an idea. The next one is listen to music you don't like. I talk to a lot of people and I ask them, like, what kind of music do you listen to? And a lot of them answer like, oh, a whole bunch of stuff, or they'll answer just one genre. So it's like, what kind of music do you listen to? Drum and bass. What kind of music do you make? Drum and bass. So like, that's fine, but you might be it might be a bit stale. Your output might be a bit stale because you're only living in one kind of world. And this day and age with the internet, you can kind of get into anything in seconds. And I think you should really take advantage of that because there's so much to learn from genres that you might not really enjoy. For example, country music. Country is hated by many, and to some a genre best forgotten. But if you listen to it, you'll realize that it's mixed in a very interesting way. Hip-hop and trap and all that stuff, that's very bass-heavy and all that. Country music is very mid-heavy. It's all in the upper mids. And the reason for that is that guitars, which make up most of country music, that's where the action is. It's all in the mid-range. So they're mixed differently. So you can go, oh, that sounds real. Oh, I see how they mix that. Okay. Bring some of that mid into what you're doing. And the kind of MO for a lot of people mixing dance music is they always like do a dip at 300, but there's a lot of cool stuff, a lot of cool information there, so country music, just they boost it at 300 hertz. Sorry, I'm talking about EQs now. So learn from the way that country music is mixed, and it might add some freshness and zest to what you're doing. Classical music is another genre that a lot of people really sleep on, and you shouldn't, because there's so much to learn with classical music, especially about arrangement. If you listen to like a string quartet, so you've got 2 violins and you have 2 cellos, or you have a double bass and a cello and a violin and something else, they just move mountains with just those 4 instruments. They'll apply mutes, and this is just a device that you put, I think, at the bridge, so that the instrument sounds kind of like it's muted and plucked more. Think of palm muting on a guitar or bass. Just by adding a mute, it changes the whole dynamic and timbre of the instrument. You'll hear bass and you'll hear cellos, and violins paired together, doubling, and then one of them is soloing, and the others kind of hang back, and they play more lightly, so the velocity is reduced, and then everything kind of comes in, and they play aggressively. They play glissando and pizzicato and legato. It's amazing, and they're only doing it with like 4 things, and that can teach you a lot about how to arrange. And by arrange, I mean the order in which things appear in your song. It'll teach you how to arrange differently. I remember listening to Lindstrom, and he's a Norwegian producer. He makes kind of space disco stuff, and I was listening very carefully, and I realized that what he was doing was it was like a dance track, but he was playing a fugue. And if you know anything about fugues, Bach, I don't know, he wrote a whole bunch of them. He was amazing at them. Listen to Art of Fugue by Bach. A fugue is just a melody, an initial melody, and then another melody joins it. It's the same melody, but it's played at a different point in the song, and then a third melody comes in, which is the same one, and they're kind of stacked, and they're playing maybe in different octaves, but it's always the same melody. And that's what he was doing in this song, and he's classically trained as a pianist, so that makes a lot of sense. But it's just cool. He was like, oh, I'll do a little fugue and turn it into a disco track, and then people won't know any better, and it sounds amazing, and it does. So you can learn a lot about arrangement and effects and mixing and stuff from listening to stuff that you don't like. It's almost like hanging out with a bunch of people you're like, oh, I don't want to hang out with them, and then you get there and you're like, whoa, I'm learning so much. Like, these guys live differently, they eat differently, they think differently, and now I'm going to bring what I learned there into my own life and like change who I am. Getting a bit weird. Anyway, so listen to music you don't like. The next trick is get creative with your sampling. A lot of you guys have iPhones and Android devices and all the rest of it. Well, congratulations, you have a sampler. I was in the TTC, which is our transit system here, like a year ago, and they were doing construction, and there was like this rat-tat-tat kind of thing. It just sounded really cool. I just sampled it. I brought it in. I got rid of some of the noise with RX by Isotope, and then I started to sort of play with it, and it made like a really cool drum fill for a track that I was working on. My girlfriend, she used to work at an animal shelter, and there was this dog that was like singing, making this really weird noise, and it sounds kind of weird, but she recorded it with her Zoom, which is like this recorder that has like a coincident XY pattern to its microphones, and she just recorded it, went home, and then played it and on her guitar, and then sang to it, and then the melody kind of made its way into the song that she was working on. Sounds weird, but this is also the basis for this musical genre that's called musique concrète. And I'm not trying to be snotty when I say it that way. It's like my other language is French, so I just can't anglicize. I can't say like fromage. I just have to say like fromage or Céline Dion. Or anyway, so I'm not trying to sound snooty or whatever, but musique concrète was all about taking found sounds and running them through a tape machine backwards or at half speed or whatever, and you could get these really cool sounds that would come out of this. And just by recording, just field recording, just recording like the sound of a door opening or a glass smashing on the ground. And this actually made up the basis for a lot of the sounds and effects that were used in the old Doctor Who show. So maybe I'll put a link to Musique Concrète. There's some really good documentaries out there that teach you about it. So yeah, that would be another one. Another really cool thing about creative sampling is if you have a DVD player or a Blu-ray player and a bunch of DVDs, that's another amazing sampling opportunity, because a DVD player has an audio out. It's going to be red and white. You take RCA cables to 1/4 inch and go into your audio interface, and congratulations, now you're sampling super high quality, high definition, because audio that's encoded onto DVDs and Blu-rays, it's really high quality. You're sampling this amazing, you get into some copyright stuff, you know what I mean? But if you bring it in and then you sort of distort it and make it all dirty and stuff, you have all these DVDs that you don't watch anymore, or these CDs, put the CDs through a DVD player and then sample from the audio out into your interface, and boom, that is amazing. You can sample anything, you can sample dialogue from a movie or a documentary, or just like wind or whatever, sample old movies. That's a really cool thing you can do. Switch it up, mask it in there so no one comes after you when you make a bunch of money and get famous. So get creative with your sampling. Number 4 is get outside your comfort zone. For a lot of people, going and making music kind of becomes like going to work. You know, you have your studio here, and you have everything. It's all familiar. I see my monitors, I see my controllers, I see in my DAW I've got all my sequencers and synths and all this stuff. Let's say you have outboard gear, you have some effects units and some rack mounted stuff. You know, that can get a bit like, like Groundhog Day. You're waking up and you're just doing the same thing over and over. I'm sure a lot of you guys compose on a MacBook or a laptop. Take that laptop to a coffee shop and bring with you your bus-powered MIDI keyboard, or buy a cheap one. Just charge up your battery on your MacBook, and then go to a coffee shop. And now you're in a new environment where there's people around, and you got to find a place, and you're that dick who's got like a keyboard and all that. But that doesn't matter, because you're getting out your honest, hard truth, your music. That's real, you know what I mean? And they're all there just like Tindering and Snapchatting. You're making music, and that's cool. So don't think you're weird for going to a place and doing that, or go to a park. But if it's a crappy day, go to a coffee shop. And then you're out of your comfort zone, and you're working with fewer things, right? You don't get to bring all your rack mounted stuff with you. You don't get to bring your keyboard and all this stuff. You just have a little MIDI keyboard and your computer, and that's it. And necessity is the mother of invention. Just work with a couple of ingredients, and that's all you need for a really awesome idea. You guys should really get into Prince if you haven't gotten into Prince, because he's someone who's worked with very few ingredients to make some amazing stuff. If you ever listen to When Doves Cry, his big hit, that has no bass line in it. No bass. And that was intentional. Just like, I'm not going to do bass in this track. And it sounds amazing, and you don't even notice. Kiss, his other track, I believe that's only got 4 or 5 tracks in it. That's it. There's just like vocals, a synth, some drums, and maybe another texture kind of drum thing. That's it. Huge hit, only 4 tracks, 4 or 5 tracks. You listen to like a Lady Gaga record, how many tracks are in one hit song? Probably about 160. And then they're comped down to about 80. And then they're comped down again to about 40. And then you can start mixing. 4 tracks on Prince's song. So really embrace limitation and embrace change of scenery. Get out of your comfort zone and go work somewhere else. Number 5. Here comes another French word, mise en place. And this translates basically to put in place. When you're about to start making music, treat your music, treat it like a kitchen. French chefs, or any chef really, I don't know why we're just doing French stuff. When they're about to make food for a dinner service, are the knives sharpened? Are the vegetables prepped and cut? Is the table clean? Is the environment safe for making food? Is the microwave working? Is the stove working? Is everything prepped? Is everything ready to go? Do we have clean towels and all that to wipe our hands? Like, everything is put in place. The same should be true of your audio environment when you're making music. So, are all my samples there? You know what I mean, right? When you go to hit a sample pack and it says like samples are missing, do you want to find them? That's taking time. That's time out of your music creation process. So are my samples loaded? Are all my plugins updated? Have I forgotten to respond to some emails? Have I put the do not disturb ticker on my, because I have it for El Capitan or whatever, you can do not disturb and you don't get any alerts. Do I have a template? Or am I starting from scratch? Do I have a template where I open my DAW and I've got my ghost kick for a ghost kick for my sidechain kick drum and all this stuff? Is everything ready to go? Good, because now I can start making music. So treat your workstation, your audio creation environment like a kitchen. Make sure everything is prepped and there are as few distractions as possible so that you can just get right to music creation. The next tip, write on what you know. Now, in writing, creative writing, it's often said that authors, the big ones anyway, the successful ones, they write what they know. And what this means is they write from their own experiences, because those experiences are more honest and easier to write about, as opposed to writing like some science fiction thing that they've never experienced before. Just, I'll write about this time this girl crapped on my heart, and I'll change her name and, sell a couple million books. Do the same with your music. Write on what you know. So if you're a guitar player, stay away from your DAW. Just write the melody on your guitar, and that's the instrument that's familiar to you. Do it there. If you play keys, play the piano, and then you have your melody, and then you can maybe use your Zoom or whatever and record the melody or keep it in your head and then bring it to your DAW. If you play drums, I bet you that the stuff you're playing in the bands you're playing with, that's not the stuff you play on your own time. You're coming up with cool polyrhythms and jazz rhythms and all this stuff. That's not the stuff you get to play when you're on stage. Really cool ideas can be generated from really cool drums and breaks and trap beats, and all that stuff can come from just jamming, just playing on your on your own home kit, and then bring those ideas to the DAW when they're ready to be sort of, you're ready to leave that instrument. So write on what you know, and I think that the creative process will be a lot more fun and sort of solid and solidified when you go to your DAW. The next tip: listen for consistent traits in songs that you like. So in your iTunes, go to the top 25 most played, go to the top 10, get a pad, get a pen, and hit play, and then start listening to all those songs, and I bet you there will be some similarities in them. You might go, oh, they're all in, from like 120 to 125 BPM. Okay, it's interesting. They all have a bass line that is like rooted in blues. Okay, they all have male vocals, or they have no vocals, they're instrumental, or they're all 3 minutes long, or they're all 8 minutes long, or they all have a huge crescendo with a drop, or they don't, or they kind of stagnate like Boards of Canada or Mogwai, and then there's like this big quiet loud moment. What I'm saying is, now you have a kind of a recipe list. You've got all your ingredients there, and you can start with that sheet and go into your DAW and go, okay, I'm going to set my tempo to 120. I'm going to pull out my my awesome Serum bass synthesizer, and I'm going to have a bass line there, and there's going to be no vocals. Or I'm going to go to a vocal pack and maybe find like some soulful vocals or whatever, and have those ready. Or you notice, hey, all the songs I like, they're all in like 7/8, time signature, or they're all in 4/4 or 3/4. I'm going to go up and change the time to 3/4 or whatever. So you're writing stuff that you know and can identify in songs that you like. So it's going to be maybe more fun for you to approach the creative process that way. Or you could do it the opposite. There's this guy from the band Yes, and he was always the outlier in the band because I forget his name, but he always wanted to write stuff like, the band would always come to him with this like simple 4/4 melody. He'd be like, well, why don't we put it like in F sharp, and we changed the time signature to 7/8, and like he was just kind of imposing these weird quirky musical constraints. And you can do that too. You can say, this is all the stuff that I like, but I'm going to get out of my comfort zone. I'm going to write in a weird time signature, and I'm going to play with a lute, and I'm going to play with a violin, and then there's going to be weird maracas underneath, and hey, you can do that too. But the bottom line is, listen for consistent traits in the songs that you like, and then choose to embrace them in your own music or ignore them. And something cool might come of that. All right, now, that's it for the beginning, the starting point. Let's say your song is done, or not done, but it's in the process of being done, and you want tips on how to stay focused and how to really sort of how to stay with your track and how to stay on track with it. So my tips going forward for this are, the first one is write drunk and edit sober. And this quote is often attributed to Ernest Hemingway. He didn't mean like get blotto and then like start writing Moby Dick. I think he just meant, when you're writing, that's sacred. That's sacred time. And don't start scratching, and just get it all out on the page. Like a band, when they go in and they record, they do this thing called live off the floor. It's a very honest expression of the song. They rehearse for a bunch, and then they just pump it all out in one go. And they do that because they feel it's an honest representation of the song. And a lot of records that I think you like, you'll go back and you'll find that they were written and recorded in a live off the floor kind of way. The same thing with writing music. Write it live off the floor. If you make a mistake, just keep going. Just keep playing, blah, 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 blah. And when you get to the very end, then go, okay, now I can edit. And that's one of the crappy things about DAW is, it's good and bad, is that there's so many opportunities to edit. There's so many things we can tweak, shift down an octave, shorten, flip. Don't touch those tools yet. Don't touch them until you're finished writing drunk and you're finished just getting the whole idea out there. So write drunk, edit sober. And I think that you'll have more honest performances coming from yourself that way. James Holden, I'll flash his album cover there that he did. His album 2 years ago, major record, made all the top 10 lists. Resident Advisors said it was the best album of the year. That's what he did. Everything was one take, just one take. I just set up my bass, set my my arpeggiator, set my drums, and then I just go and I record. And you can hear mistakes in that record. You can hear little moments where you kind of screwed up, but it doesn't matter because the groove is there and the arrangement is there, and you're kind of wondering where the track is going to go. And I bet he was wondering where the track was going to go too, as he was doing it. And then you edit and you mix a little later. But that moment is so important to capture in an honest way. So write drunk, edit sober. The next one is focus on one element of the song. Let's say that you're kind of getting overwhelmed because you're like, oh, what am I going to do for the verse and the chorus? And should this be 7 minutes? Should it be 8 minutes? Whatever. If you have a really cool idea for a melody, just start there and build all the other aspects of the song out from that one thing. So let's say you think of a bass line, and it's a bluesy kind of like bass line, and you really like it. Just get that down. There's so many other ideas that can come from just committing that bass line to your DAW. For example, the bass line comes out, and you've got a bass line, and then you've got the chorus, and you got the verse. And so that sounds really cool. It's about 15 seconds long. It's something. And then you go, okay, well, this bass line is really gooey, and so I should come up with it. It should be like a really sharp kick under it. By the way, that's a tip. If you're writing a song and you have like a gooey bass line, go with a sharp kick. If you have a really gooey thumpy kick, go with a sharp bass line. Otherwise, it gets too muddy or it gets too kind of radio and digital if both are kind of in the same category musically. So you want to complement those two things. So you go, okay, well, now I need a sharp kick. That's cool. And then you've got that gooey bass line, and you can find out what key it's in, by either using a key detector or whatever, and that's going to give you the key of your song. And then you have pads that you want to bring in, and those pads are in the key of the bass line, and everything just kind of comes together. But treat writing the whole song, treat writing that one thing like you're writing the whole song. Give it all that kind of importance, and then bridge out from there and see what you can do from that one idea. And I think that's really going to help, instead of going, oh, I got to think about the bridge and the outro and the coda and the intro, and just focus on one part of the song, build it out from there. The next thing I want to say is play with timing and editing. Let's say you're working on a track and it's 125 beats per minute. Maybe just cut it, bring it down to 90 and hit play. You might have to do some extra warping on your samples to make sure that they're consistent with this new beat change. But a whole new song might come out of just slowing the tempo down. Andy Sheps, one of my favorite mix engineers, he's the guy who mixed 99 Problems, Jay-Z's 99 Problems, and Adele and a bunch of other people who I don't really care for. Anyway, he's a famous guy. He was working with this like no-name band, and they were just playing the song. It just kind of wasn't clicking, so he's like, why don't we just rehearse, okay? Just slow it down by half, play it lighter, whatever, and just let's all sort of play. And from that, from slowing down the tempo, this other really cool song emerged. It was the same song, but this other kind of angle on the song emerged, and it was suddenly a ballad, and it sounded way better slowed down than sped up. The opposite is true too. You're working on a slow song, well, maybe, holy crap, like I was working on this trap thing at like 70, or does that make sense? Yeah, 70 or 140, but 70 BPM, and you shift it up to 115, you got this weird like Balearic disco song that you didn't know you had, and you're excited to continue working on it. So you can do the same thing with time signatures, although it's a bit harder. But you're working in 4/4, go to 7/8, and just see if something happens up there, or like 6/4, see if something happens over there. Hopefully those are actually time signatures that exist. I don't play outside of 4/4 that much, but okay. So those are my tips for staying focused. Obviously, staying focused means getting rid of as many distractions as you can, which is like the mise en place thing. So, if you're hungry, make sure you eat before you start working. If you have to go to the bathroom, do what I do. I compose with a catheter, okay? Condom catheter. No, I'm just joking. I don't do that. I go to the bathroom. But, do your pee thing and then start writing, whatever. Just stay focused and stay committed to the project. Those tips are going to help, I think. Now, for the end, for finishing your music. And this is like the hardest thing in the world, because you're your own worst enemy, and you've convinced yourself that like it's only finished when I say it's finished. But the problem is it's never done to you because it's never good enough, and you're never good enough, and you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm going to become an architect, I hate my life. Don't do that. There are tips. There are ways you can finish your music. Number 1, render as a commitment. In Ableton, when you freeze and flatten tracks, you got to do that. You can't, if you're trying to finish a song, you have to put a ring on those MIDI tracks, commit to them, marry them, flip them over, and I swear it's going to help you so much. Just bite the bullet. Really cool, amazing drum pattern, just flip it into audio. So you can't go back and you can't Command Z, just commit. Bite the bullet. You're talented, you're making music, you're making art, you're making truth, you're good at what you do. Trust yourself. Render as a commitment. Don't leave everything in MIDI because there's going to be a huge CPU spike. And, you know, just flip everything down to audio, readjust your buffer size and all that. Get ready for mixing. Just render as a commitment. You're making a commitment to finishing this track. Don't delay. The next tip, and I'll probably include a little video as I talk about this over top, it's called subtractive editing. And this is the idea that you have all of your MIDI out in front of you and you just subtract. It's like a statue. You have a block and you chip away, right, at this marble block until it becomes something else, a statue. You're doing the same thing with subtractive editing. You have a whole thing laid out. You have your verse, chorus, and all that stuff. You can just copy, paste all the way across the arrangement view, and then you just delete until you have a verse carved out, and then a break where it's just the drums because you've deleted all the pads and the melodies, so it's just the drums, and then you go back into the next verse. Delete. You get to your chorus, you might add a little bridge, and then you have the chorus. Delete, and then copy and paste your verse over to your chorus right after the chorus, and then you delete. And there's a lot of people who've done videos on this. I'll probably link them in the description. But this is a really cool way of just getting the song finished. If you're really struggling to sort of get all those ideas down and you don't know how to stop it, like just copy and paste, subtractive editing. It's a little trick that is made possible by DAWs, really, because you couldn't really do this with tape and all that. But so really, really cool subtractive editing. Have to try this out. Check the description. The next one is seek meaningful praise. No, that's wrong. Seek meaningful criticism. If you're sending your music out to people to listen to, and what you're really doing is you're just hoping they'll say something really nice about you, you're not going to learn anything at all. And so you have to be ready to accept criticism. If you're sending this out to your mom or your sister or your brother or something like that, like they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. They're not going to be real with you. So send it to people you think, to people you're impressed by. You know, I mean, you're a student, you would give your work to a teacher before you would give it to another student, because a teacher is going to have some valuable input for you. You know, and the teacher would never give the student his or her work. So you have to approach it like that. So where do you find people? Where do you find spokespeople for this criticism? Well, you can go on the internet, you can look some people up that you really admire. Shot in the dark, see if they'll listen to it. You could go on some subreddits and look at the comments, and you can kind of tell the way that people talk about what they would do in editing and all that stuff if they know what they're doing. Look them up. Say, hey, can I see your SoundCloud? I'd like to send you some of my music. And do that. You know, if you want to send your music to me, send it to me. I'll listen to it. I might make you like subscribe to me on Twitter and YouTube as like an exchange, but I will listen to your music. I will listen and give you feedback. And that's the next sort of sub tip here. If you're going to send your music to someone, be very specific about what you want them to listen to. So, you know, there's nothing worse than someone going like, hey, here's my track, what do you think? It's like, ugh, I only have so many things to do today. I can't just like, what do you want specifically? So say, I'm really nervous about the relationship between the bass and the kick. How did I manage there? Or I don't know if my arrangement is perfect in the second verse. I think the second verse is not as compelling as the first one. What do you think? Or is this too long? Because I have like 3 more minutes of material, but I want to keep it short. So be very specific, and that'll give the people who are listening to your music something very specific to get back to you on. And it makes you sound a bit more professional and serious if you're like, these are the 5 things I really want fixed. What do you think I should do about them? So yeah, I'll listen to your music if you want to send it to me. Just like or subscribe to me on YouTube or whatever, and that'll be our little exchange. And then I'll totally give up 20, 30 minutes of my time to listen and respond to. I have no problem doing that. Next, and this is the final tip. See if you can move to a client-based working dynamic with your music. What that means is right now, a lot of you guys might be making music just for yourselves. That's good and bad because, again, like I said about the architect joke, like you're your own worst enemy. Like if things never get finished, you're like, oh, this sucks, I'm going to become an architect. Like, no. See if you can start making music for people who are waiting for your music. When I started composing music and there was someone waiting and often paying me for my music, that changed things dramatically. In a couple ways. One, they're paying me, so it better be good and it better sound good. And two, it didn't matter what I thought. I knew it was good, but I'll be up till 3 a.m. going like, I just don't think we have the hi-hats, man. It's just no, like, the client doesn't care how the hi-hat sound or the kick drum sounds. The client just wants a finished product that they think sounds good and that the whole team thinks sounds good, and then you're done. So the music is done when they think it's good, not when you do. And that's so cathartic and freeing when I first started getting through to that. And I was like, oh my God, now I can make so much more music. I was making music a lot more for myself after that, and it was easier to make music for clients after that. So the question for you guys, I guess, now is, how do you find people? How do you find clients? And my tip for you guys would be, if you're a band and you're covering music, or if you're a producer or an artist and you're working on your own stuff and you're remixing whatever, go to Bandcamp and then type in the city you live in at the top, so that you narrow the search by the bands or the producers or whatever that are in your city. Start listening to them. Listen to all the music they made. Find a couple songs that you really like. Maybe follow them on Twitter, flatter them a little bit, butter them up, and then reach out to them and say, hey, I really love track 2, 3, and 4. I would love a shot at just remixing, or my band, we'd love a shot at covering this. We really like you guys, and we just discovered you a couple days ago. Whatever you got to say. And then the band's going to go yes, or they'll say no. But if they're kind of low level and they're just waiting for their big break, they might be more than happy that someone else they'll be flattered, someone else wants to remix or produce them. So do that. And then down the road, if they make it big and they have a song that they need remixed or whatever, they'll go, oh, hey, we know that guy from Reddit. We know that guy from Twitter that, he did a great job on that remix. Yeah, we'll totally send this to him because the label needs a remix, so we got to do it. And before they reach out to anyone else, they already know you. So when you move from a client-based relationship to a client-based relationship, I think you'll have a much better time at getting things finished and getting things done, and also building new relationships that are going to help you ascend in the industry. That is the end of tips and tricks and strategies for starting, staying focused, and finishing music. That's it for me. Oh my gosh, I've been talking for a while. Okay, see you guys later. Bye.